Okay, so here's the deal. When we're talking backswing, there's a million different ways, and I mean a million, that you can do your backswing, okay? In general, the backswing is set up to keep it on plane and actually keep it the most powerful. So if I'm starting to cock my wrist, I lose feel in my hands, you're rolling it in, it's really hard to control your low point from there, okay? It's less distance. It's been proven that as soon as you start changing your angles right away, you're losing distance too, okay? So back in the day, I was always taught one piece goes away all the way over to here, okay? So nowadays, then we had some players that were trying to do it real early to keep it on plane. So what do I like? I like one piece to the leg, okay? Just the chest opens right to here, okay? Now, what's the butt end doing? Is it moving out? Is it moving in? Well, it's just moving almost straight back. Well, geometry of my body would state the further and further my handle's out, naturally it's gonna wanna come in. We're just gonna do a bogus guideline right here. Just keep your butt end as close to the right leg as it can, and that means butt end's right at the right leg. Now, I just want one piece to here, okay? And that means just the chest, arms, hands, club, all are going away together. No wrist break, nothing, okay? Now, here's where it gets complicated. We want to feel like we have an upward hinge with a forearm roll. Okay, you ready for this? Upward hinge with a forearm roll, okay? You match those two together and you're gonna get somewhere in between if you have a soft fold, okay? Now, so that means that if you're rolling, watch what happens when I roll my wrist. These are the 6 actions of the hand. If I forearm roll, where'd my left arm go? Outward. So watch this. I get my arm to move further away from me. My club head goes inside, and what do most people do? They swing more outside with their arms and more outside, and the club head keeps going inside. So what you want to do is feel like there's less forearm roll and more soft fold and hinge. Now, we have a checkpoint. Here's the back. It's called my seam line, okay? Now, if I was actually starting my engine, okay, or if I was playing basketball and I was elbowing somebody behind, that would be me actually pulling my elbow back. If I went up and I got my phone and I put it to my ear, that would be a straight up fold, okay? So I want more of my phone fold, okay? Not my mow my lawn fold or start my engine, okay, on my boat. I want to feel like I go here, and now there's a little bit of this, a little forearm roll and a little fold. Now, you saw that that actually got a little further away. Now, does it have to? If I had no forearm roll, it would stay closer to me. As soon as I get a little forearm roll with soft fold, the handle is going to move a little further away from you, okay? So it depends on how much fold you have in the arm and when. I have my calculated numbers, meaning I know how many degrees each number is, but I'm not going to get calculated like that because you guys will lose your mind, okay? So what I do is I take it one piece here, little soft fold, okay? And that's about it. Now, from here, what I'm doing is I'm actually trying to point it at ball line or inside ball line, depending on what my player's feels are. Everybody's different. So if I get a person that's way in here, starts doing this, I'll get them more inside, okay? With their or their hand path and the shaft a little more vertical. Now, what's directing these things, moving my hand path inside? Forearm roll, how much fold I have, how early I turn, directly relates your takeaway, okay? So use more of the phone, less of this, and understand one piece to here and a little soft fold and straight up. So if you really want to work it in pieces. I go one piece here, soft fold here, and then I take it in one motion, slow motion, so I can feel it, okay? Do a lot of those and you'll get there. And then you could also do checkpoints where you're like, okay, you keep going like this and smashing or over here. Just go 1, 2, feel it, and then go to the top and hit a ball, okay? That's what I would do. I would do a lot of those just to get it, and don't worry about it. Do a lot of with like wiffle balls and at home in the mirror and get it done, but stop and feel it and then go and do actual swings. There's a lot of variations you can use, but start with that, okay? All right, so here we go. We're going to talk about backswing and how many different ways you can actually change your swing plane and how that can set up your downswing, okay? So the first thing you need to know is this is forearm roll, okay? We call this pronation, supination. I'm not going to get into the actual terminology. We have an upward hinge and we have a downward hinge, and we have bowing and what we call flexion extension. Who cares? But the point is that's closing the face and opening the face. So now that we know that, we can go on all the different types of backswings that tour players use, okay? This would be a general on-plane one. So we have a stick that runs right on the ground at ball line. So this club head would be pointing right there at the first one, okay? Some people take longer one pieces, some just take little short ones. But in general, most players are trying to stay parallel to their feet line, pointed at ball line, pointing at ball line with this, pointing at ball line, and if they get long enough, they're parallel here, okay? Now, if you look at like the Europeans or a lot of the best ball strikers of all time, they don't follow that. They are much more vertical here. So their shaft will set and run right up their leg. Now, the reason they do that is because as they start down with their legs, that shaft shifts out. And those are usually the best rotators through the ball and hit the ball the straightest by far. Okay, so what do I prefer is whatever feels best to my players, okay? I never come and say, hey, listen, you have to keep it dead perfectly on plane. What I care about is that you get your shaft parallel to the original line in transition. So how does that set up for the backswing? So I've got a lot of players who will shift it very vertical and shift it out here. And that's the like I personally like, a lot of my players like. But there's a lot of great players who will be very laid off here, keep it on plane the whole time. And that's fine too. So I can go about it any way you want. Now, how does this club get on plane in the first place? If we have all these folds and the hinges, okay? The first thing we want to do is we want to take it to one piece to the leg. That's the way I teach it. If you want to be old school, you'll get back here, but there's going to be a lot of different weird folding back here, okay? So what I like to do is the first one piece to here, I have a little bit of a hinge upward and a little bit of a forearm roll, and they race each other, and right there's the way I like to do it. And there'll be a little soft fold in that arm, okay? At this point, my shoulders are still staying on their plane they're on, okay? And what we're trying to do from this position is fold the arm and hinge up and keep our wrist angles the same to here, okay? And it can be here or here. And then trace it up or be a little bit more vertical. That's all feel, in my opinion, to set the downswing up. And that's the way I go about the backswing. Is there a million different folds and ways I can go about it? Of course there are. So it all depends on the player. Okay guys, people have an idea of what should happen in the backswing as far as what the right leg's doing. There's been a lot of debate whether you keep your right leg in flexion or you extend a little bit, okay? And I'm gonna explain, should you slide, should you really move your legs in, and what the setups are and how you can match up from any backswing, okay? So I'm gonna put a ball on my head, which some of you guys have already seen for my shadow. I'm gonna put one on my right side of my hip, okay? And I'm gonna put one on my left side of my hip. Now, the balls should have all sun on them, okay? So there's sun on each side, okay? My head has shadow on it, okay? So as I go to the top of my swing, for my guys, I teach them to create about a ball here, okay? Now, as we're creating a ball here, that means that my head could move way over here or it could be way over here, depending on how much left lateral bend or how much up I'm extending with the spine. So come on over to the face view so you can see a little better. I would say as I go to the top, my hip could, this is what I teach most of my players, is I teach them to keep inside this wall here, head's gonna be centered. Now, if you look at Tiger when he was playing well, his hip stayed on that wall, his head moved off, then he moved back to center and went through. Now, you get long drivers who are up, 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 extending the legs up, okay, almost straightening it and then squatting down, okay? So there's a lot of plays, but let's get real here, okay? If someone said, hey George, today you have to sway 2 inches out here and then move back, could I shoot under par? Yes, I could, okay? The difference is you get any tour player to swing like this, they're still gonna find a way to hit low point and actually get the ball to do the things they want it to, okay? So is there more powerful ways? Yes. Do I prefer certain things? Yes. But is there one way to do it? No, okay? So I want you to understand I have checkpoints guidelines that I teach my players. Let's try and keep a ball here and keep our head centered with a full turn. And then as we come down, we're doing my natural body motion, heads all the way on center to here. And then you bust through that wall, this wall here, as much as you want after you've made the turn around. And depending on how high you want to hit it. You get around, you stay really down here, you're fine. You kick your pelvis up, that's going to be a higher shot. So let's get back to the right leg. So if I want to really hit one far, I'm going to extend this knee up, 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 and then I'm going to actually shift down in flexion. That would be the most powerful. If you looked at a lot of players, they're trying to brace it here, brace it, but the knee's still shifting from 12 to 1, some players 2 o'clock, 1:30-ish, depending on what you want, and I'm okay with that too. But if you want speed, I would say I'd get up a little bit more on it, and then I'd get back into flexion. That would help you, but you have your guidelines of where the hips are at. You can keep it on the wall, or you can keep it a little bit inside the wall. Remember, my hips aren't round either. My pelvis isn't round. So the more and more I turn, the more appearance it's gonna have space on each side, okay? See, my hips are not, they're not round. So the more I turn, it's gonna look like you've moved more inside this wall. But if you turn your hips about 45 in flexion, meaning your knees are still bent, you'll create about a ball here. You'll still have a space here. So there's a whole bunch of ways you can do it. There's coaches that are still teaching this, still flex. There's some that are up here. So do I care? No, not really. You even got stack and tilt. There's more stacked. They're coming up in this way, and then they're shifting. If I was a stack and tilt, I'd do it more like, I'd say Sam Snead. I'd be up in extension, have a little left lateral bend, and then I'd actually sit back here before I extend it up. And that's the way I would teach it if I was doing stack and tilt. I would actually get up here, and then I'd actually shift here rather than pushing into that side and then kicking up, okay? I'd get over here, stack and tilt, sit, and then go. So is there a way for everything and you could do it? Yeah, you could do it any way you want, but I'd say those are my checkpoints, those are my guidelines. Use them if you want, don't if you want, it's okay, all right? Good luck, guys. All right, guys, I get a lot of questions on wrist hinge, how much wrist hinge. There's a lot of guys having no wrist hinge, okay? There's a lot of reasons why they're doing it. It helps you keep your swing direction better, okay? If you hinge it, you have to actually have a little bit of this, okay? So if you have it up here with very little wrist hinge, with your actual external rotation, you can just keep it really simple. Now, as far as people ask me, is there a lift in the golf swing, okay? I would say 100% no. Does there need to be a lot of wrist hinge? No, but can you? Yes, okay? You've got John Daly, you've got Bubba. I mean, I could go on and on till the break of dawn, okay? About how long these wrist hinge would be, okay? So what I'm gonna show you is what I would prefer, but you can do whatever you want, okay? So if my wrist hinged straight up to here, and my right arm went to 90, okay, and I turn my left shoulder down to my sternum, my club is right there, okay? I had no lift in that. And if I wanted to get it higher, I could extend my spine and I could have some left lateral bend, I could extend the spine and I could get it even longer without any lift at all, okay? So there's a lot of ways that you can get that club all the way back with the full turn without going here or cocking your wrist quick, okay? So what do I prefer? I prefer the hinge only is here and the right arm breaks to 90. So let's show you that. So as I go here, one piece here, I like a little soft fold in the arm, a little hinge, and then I'd say my right arm would break to about 120, which means it's bent 60 degrees, and then it breaks 90 and my shoulders are 60 here, so they're going another 30, and now all of a sudden I've got a full hinge. I could take it to here, or I could keep it where I had it right here, and that's fine, okay? I could also go, okay, I like cocking it more, and then I would be all the way up here. So what I like compared to what other players are doing, it's all optional. I got one of my best juniors would be Spencer Sussman, and I'm always trying to take the cock out of his hands. He loves cock in his hands. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take that cock out of your hands, and you're not gonna have, from here he's like, and it goes a little long. What that does, as he starts down, it gets him a little steep. So I'm always trying to keep that cock out of his hands here. As he makes the turn, he shallows out, he hits it a lot better, okay? So that should explain how much wrist hinge you have and what you wanna do with it. That's optional, but I would say I would advise you to do what I tell you, and you'll probably be a lot better off. All right, guys? Good luck. Armpits over the balls of the feet. Bend your knees a little more. Okay, so ideally we want to get them set up first. Now, stay within your spine angle, put your arms across your chest and crisscross that, and keep this thing dead level with the ground or level with your shoulders. Now, what I'm going to do is come in and represent your back line, not your spine because it's curved, but your back line, and I'm going to put that at a right angle to that. Now, your shoulders want to run right on that. Look at that. So I'd say they ran up a little high of that, right about there. Do that one more time. Look in the mirror. Now, look in the mirror. This one got a little high. I like that, though. There you go. That's perfect. So you can see that's matched up there, and that'd be the best way. One more time. So really work. Now, turn around the other way. All the way around. So now as we're running, go back, take it back, and then start to turn through. I'd like to see those match up on the other end, okay? That'd be ideal. That's how you learn, is actually just doing that at home in the mirror over and over and over, okay? That'd be great. All right, guys, we have anatomical terms that we're using, so you guys should get with it, okay? So what I mean by that is we have an up hinge, okay? And we have a down, and that's called the radial and ulnar deviation, okay? You can just call it cocking up or cocking down if you want to stay in the future, okay? Future, the past, my bad, okay? So now, we have pronation to the left, which means if I gripped it, that'd be supination in the right, supination left, pronation right, okay? Now, I'll show you what these things affect in the golf swing. We also have flexion to the left, which means extension to the right, flexion to the right, extension to the left. Now, we have stack and tilters, and we have golf machiners, and we have all Mac O'Grady Morad guys, and they still call this, what do we call this? Dorsiflexion, okay? That is extension anatomically, okay? You're more than welcome to call it whatever you want, and they call flexion palmar flexion, okay? So if you're still back on that tip, that's cool. We're moving to anatomical terms now. There's nothing wrong. I'm not talking trash. I'm telling you, you can call it whatever you want, but I want you, if you're trying to follow me, to be able to relay what I'm talking about so I don't have to explain it again and again and again, okay? So here's what we're doing. We're going up, down, this way, this way, this way, this way. Now, how's that affecting in the golf swing? We're going to talk about flexion and extension first, okay? And then we're going to talk about forearm roll, then we're going to talk about cock, okay? Here we go. So what we're doing is we're going to go number one. As I take it back, one piece to here with just my chest, my hips haven't moved yet, you're going to notice that I could either radial deviate upward, or I could actually leave it down and keep turning, okay? That is not what I want to do, because if I did that, I'd want to have to feel like I'm reaching out to keep it on plane, okay? So at this point right here, we want some upward hinge with some pronation, okay? So here we go. As I did what? Folded the arm up a little bit, okay? So that forearm's gonna, or that arm's gonna fold up about 30 degrees, so that'll say 150, and I know you guys are looking at my bicep, but we're gonna keep it simple. Boom, right there, you got that? Okay, so that's the first thing we're gonna do, is we're gonna talk about that. Now, when I was growing up, we kept one piece forever and reached. Is there something wrong with that? No, actually, that's probably gonna create more speed, okay? But we're trying to keep an equal sequence here so you guys can understand what's simple, keeps you on plane, okay? So, one to the leg, this with this, equals with this equals boom, right there, right on plane, okay? Now, where should the face be? Well, let's get into flexion and extension. I want you to keep your wrist angles the same, okay? So if I stood straight up and down, my wrist angles are the same. If I went over here and went flexion, my wrist angles aren't the same. Or if I went into this position, which is extension, my wrist angles would be there. That's not forearm rotation, okay? So when I take it back to here, and I keep my same angle, my club is in that angle. Now, why is it a little down more towards my front bend and my back line? Why? Because if I stood up, now it's straight up and down, okay? So I get back over here. So when I hit a driver, it appears to be more open than it would down here with the wedge, okay? But my wrist angles have not changed, okay? So from here, I'm trying to keep my wrist angle here, my wrist angle here. Okay, now if I choke this down, that'd be the same angle as my forearm here, same wrist hinge and same wrist hinge. So some coaches are gonna go, God, you have a cupped wrist. If I flatten it, that face would be closed, which is fine. I would trap it more. I have no problem with having an open face, closed face, cupped, non-cupped. I'm talking about matchups. Now that was with my neutral grip I did that, okay? My neutral 45-degree grip. is right there. Now, if I had a weak grip like Jordan Spieth and I wanted to keep this thing square, I would have to have a little bit more of a flat wrist, which is flexion. It'd be more flexed here, and it'd be square to my forearm here, but it's flatter here, okay? That's what Jordan Spieth's wrist. It just depends on the address angles to match up to the top. Now, if I had someone like Dustin Johnson here, he would actually go into flexion with that strong grip, okay? And do what? Close that even more and close it all the way up like this even more, where he could serve drinks up top, okay? That's fine. That just means as he comes down, he has to rotate and hold more, and he's getting a lower ball flight, trap further, hitting it further, obviously. That's not speed, that's actually angle of attack, shaft lean, and he's getting less dynamic loft, so which equals more distance, okay? So if I did it and tried to keep it square with Dustin's grip over here, if I wanted to keep it square from this setup, it would look much more like this. I got down in my spine angle, it's gonna look a lot more like this. Now that's still the same square as all the rest. Still square to the forearm. Still square to the back of the forearm, but my wrist is very, very cupped, okay, to get it square. If I had it flat like everybody says, I'm serving drinks, or even getting more, and now I better hold it like a hockey player through the ball. So there's matchups everywhere. You guys use them however you want. Get it neutral, keep the natural cup, or get it flatter like Jordan Spieth and keep it flat. It's up to you guys, all right? Good luck. All right, guys, we have another addition to what we just talked about. What I didn't bring up in the first video is I added the flexion, extension, radial ulnar, and a little bit of forearm roll. But now if we're watching forearm roll here and I put this on, I'm going to show you that this would be a standard swing direction that we're trying to keep it on. That points where? Right at that line, that's parallel with the line, that's at ball line, that's at ball line. Now, you're gonna notice that I kept the same natural cup. I could be here or I could be here. That's still pointed at ball line, but my angles have changed and now my face has changed, so now my release would have to change. If I did the same thing, kept it on that same swing direction, what would happen is if I bowed it or put flexion here, I would have a whole different release through the ball. So as I'm doing this, I could also have my club roll out here with flexion or a cup, and I'm definitely gonna have to do what? Manipulate it on the downswing or the backswing, okay? So what we're looking at is let's try and keep it on the swing direction with the right amount of flexion, the right amount of the wrist cock, radial deviation, and forearm roll and all the rest, okay? Are there players swinging it a little bit more vertical? Yes, some are even like Ledbetter's teaching it to be square to the spine here with the shaft. Some are here, this is more European, and some are ball line, more American, okay? But the angles we're creating an address, we want to try and keep the same. For me personally, this is what I like to do. I go, point at it, here, I'm a little bit inside ball line because I feel like the shaft is lighter in my hands than it is over here. It feels heavy. I like it to feel light, okay? It also shifts the club below a little bit more, which we now know creates more speed. It's also better to get it back on the shaft line, okay? So it shallows you out a lot better is what I meant to say. So you go back here, I go here, and I'm actually square with the face, okay? Now, as I shift the plane, I actually get my left hand to get a little bit more on the closed side, okay? Now, why would I want to do that and get it more closed than I had it square is because now as I hold and turn, I turn my dynamic loft down from like 26 to 22 with an 8-iron, which is 4 degrees, which is, I don't know, it depends on the speed, but I'm going to give you a rough number, about 1 or 3 yards per degree of dynamic loft, okay? Now, it depends. If I'm swinging it at 40 miles an hour, it's not going to be as much. If I'm swinging at 100 miles an hour, it's going to be more, okay? So it all depends on your speed to give you a number like that, but I'm giving you examples, so don't hold me to it, all right? So if we look at all those things, that is a good checkpoint for how much you are actually using your forearms, okay? I would say I would try and keep it either at ball line or inside ball line, because then as I actually use my legs the right way, that shaft will do exactly what you want it to do. And then you can actually get more flexion, or you can keep it in the same cup and you'll be just fine. Okay, guys? Good luck. All right, guys, so here's the deal. With wedges, very important to keep this shaft working in the right direction, okay? So for me, when I'm doing it, I make sure my chest, everything is at a right angle to this mirror here, meaning my shoulders are actually on that angle. My forearms aren't like this or like this, so I check it. My feet are left for wedge shots because of angle of attack, and it actually feels better to go this way with my feet open, okay? So as I'm looking at this, I'm trying to imagine a club going right up that line and hiding my hands. I don't like it when I see wedgers like this or like this, okay? So we're going right up the line, hiding my hands with that club head above the forearm, not below the forearm. That's gonna be because I already showed you all your wrist angles here. Your arm's not gonna sneak behind you. It's gonna stay inside seam line. So 1, 2 above the forearm, turn the chest through, okay? Very important for you guys to watch in the mirror above the forearm and turn. You're not watching anybody going under here because that's where you get the flinches at, because you gotta time that. More players are more on top this way than they are under this way with wedges, but let's try and keep it right on the correct swing direction and turn through it, okay guys? Good luck. What we're looking at here is when we're looking at still being dumped into the plane. So a lot of people don't like this thing here. So what I do is I put something in front of them, okay? So there's a lot of different ways you could go about this, okay? So what I try and do is get the club outside and rotate this way, okay? So if we look from this angle, I'm just gonna start out with little halfers here. I'm just gonna go from here and hit a little cutter, boom. So that's a beautiful little cutter right there that I started out. That's gonna get me less dumped under. Now, as far as why people get it under, we just talked about axis tilt, your back stays to the target, but the main thing you gotta understand is here is the fold in the arm. If I fold and I don't turn, my club goes out. If I turn and I don't fold, the club goes in. Now I'm assuming that your shoulders are even on plane here, which is at a right angle to my back line. So as I get in my spine angle and I turn without any fold, the club's going inside, so we're gonna assume that it's gonna go outside. So the best thing you guys can remember is fold with less turn, even though you really want to turn, but this is just an exaggeration. Fold, no turn. Now what we want to do is reverse the order. We don't want to pull down, we want to hold the fold and turn. So we go up here and we fold, hold, and turn. And that's exactly how you're going to get way more over the plane. Easiest way you can do it. All right guys, here's the deal. We're going to talk about the trail arm, the right arm in the golf swing, how many different ways we can use it, and basically understand it, okay? Is there one way to do it? Of course there's not. We've seen a million backswings, and that's probably my biggest deal is I love matchups. I love different golf swings. Am I okay with any golf swing? I'm okay with any backswing as long as it's powerful, or it sets you up to be powerful, and as long as it sets you up to not to have actual optimal ball flights, okay? So here's the deal with the trail arm, okay? So I have to put this on with both arms first, but we're gonna talk about the trail arm after. Now, you'll see a lot of my players a little bit more vertical than this line, and this shaft is inside, and you'll see this arm is what we call internal and external, and my boy Fish said that there's some semantics to it. This is not technically fully internal, but we're gonna call this internal and we're gonna call this external for now, okay? So here's the deal. As I take it back, a lot of my players keep this arm into a very internal position, okay? That makes the shaft vertical. Does it have to? No, I could have that internal, have the left forearm really go outside here, okay? So I could change that, and that is a little bit of the right forearm too. But like I said, let's keep it simple, okay? So a lot of my players are in this position. They keep this right forearm very internal. This is very parallel to the spine. The humerus bone is not parallel to the spine. This is not vertical, okay? So what do I want? I do that more because a lot of my players love the feel of this trail arm going like this, okay? Now, there's a lot of good players who have it online, have it very external the whole time, have this very pinched in, this very vertical, which is just an indicator of the forearm is vertical, the arm is pinched in, which means it's very external. Now, we have, what is it, stretch short cycle, which means that if you stretch a muscle to the max, it's gonna fire the opposite way. So why would I stretch it this way and then come back this way? Well, you'll see a lot of women who are very external, okay? And they come back here, and I shouldn't use the word women because then we're gonna think I'm sexist, but I'm not. We're talking straight up about juniors, women, some of the players that don't have as much speed. Now, I have some women that have some speed. Let's get real, okay? The difference is I think more than anything for players who don't have speed, and let's keep it just as simple as that, if they're here and they don't have any speed, they can hold that, okay? They can hold this in here. But if you're someone who has a lot of speed, I'll tell you what, you start going like this and this thing's gonna pinch right back out, and that's gonna be very, very vertical, okay? So when I get a player who's very internal with the right arm, it always wants to go back this way. Now, do I have some guys that are here? Yeah, those are the guys that are pulling down on the handle. But we're simply gonna make this simple for my boy Fish, okay? We're keeping this thing trail arm only, okay? And I probably could talk on the trail arm for about, I don't know, probably 2 days straight, okay? The right wrist is an indicator. This is extension, flexion. We're talking a million parts of the wrist, forearm roll. There's so much that's going on, it's incredible, okay? But if we look at the right arm alone, and I take it back here, and I come into this position, and I get this thing internal early, I like that. The problem that I have with a lot of people is they keep saying, should I do that with my wedges? Well, I've got Matt Wolf, who's here right off the bat, and he goes, and he hits it just fine with his wedges, okay? And then I've got Aaron Smith, who's like this with his real golf swing, but when he hits a wedge, he's much more into this position, okay? And he's hitting shots right down the line. And then I got Johnny Ruiz, who is more of the same way as Wolf is, right down the line. So you've got all kinds of different players. So what I'd like to see you do is understand that you can do anything. I could even go like this. If you wanted me to on a chip, I could go, and hit it. Now it's dead down the target. So the backswing doesn't mean a lot to me. It's a setup. But the point I'm trying to tell you is that if you wanted to make it look pretty, I'd like to get this trail arm to stay here, here, which means that it's doing what? Going into a little bit of a external rotation of the forearm, okay? There's a little extension in the wrist, and we can get into radial deviation. There's a lot of things that's happening with that right wrist, okay? But we're going here, and we're gonna go external to here. Let's just, all these wrist angles and everything, let's keep this shaft pointing at ball line. That would make you guys happy, okay? Then from here, we can let this thing go internal, okay? And it could be over here, you know what I like. But if you wanna keep it simple, so all your half shots, they're all staying on ball line, cool, let's do it, okay? Let's keep it all on ball line, to left arm parallel, then let it fly for power or the look you like or whatever it is with that trail arm. Now, what's determining if I got the lawnmower or if I put my phone in my ear, what this right arm's doing, okay? I got a lot of guys who go, okay, your geometry, I'm gonna do a whole thing on geometry, so I'm not gonna get into geometry, okay? Because geometry, to me, is what is everything in the golf swing. So you get a guy who is 90 degrees at first, this is first parallel, with the shoulder here, what do you think his right arm's gonna be, short or long? It's gonna be over at 180, okay? If you get a guy who turns his chest back about 30 degrees, the arm is gonna be put on here, and it's gonna say 150, which means it's about 30 degrees of bend, okay? So those are completely two different guys, okay? Now, let's say I got a guy, as he's turning back 30 degrees, and his arm naturally goes here, and then you got another guy who does the same thing, 30 back, but he pulls back a little bit with this elbow, boom. That's still the same amount of fold, and then you get a guy who's more in here, and he's same shoulders, but his arms are doing different things. One's pulling, one's pushing. You got all these different factors, which is awesome to me, because that's why I've got a job. But it's very, very detailed. If you want to make it look pretty, let's keep the right arm, forget how much shoulder turn and how wide it is, and how much of this or that, or how much radial deviation, extension. I can get so detailed with that. Come see me, forearm rotation, all the rest. But right now, we're gonna try and keep this trail arm pointing at ball line for now. And then if you wanna keep it there, you can. If you want to get a little more internal, you can too. That's up to you. And we can change that angle with the left forearm or the right forearm and keep that right shoulder internal, okay? Or we can get it external, as long as it doesn't get too pinched here. And don't forget, let's say I keep it internal, right here, the forearm's same parallel with my back, but then I get more width. That doesn't look the same as a guy who's more narrow. My shoulder's in the same position. They didn't change. I just got more width here, okay? So there's all these different things, and that means that if I had more width, that means that shoulder would have to be further back, okay? Because if I stop my shoulder, guess what? I'm gonna get a lot narrower, okay? So that's a huge segment that I could go on hours and hours, but I want you to understand, let's try and keep this here for like wedges and stuff, what we call on plane, boom, at ball line. Let's keep it more boom, boom for wedges for those guys so you can be happy. And the guys that really don't care for half shots, keep it here, all right? Do whatever makes you happy, but really that's all that matters, okay? Get the feels right, get your arm right, but the trail arm, we could, like I said, I could write a book on the trail arm. It's pretty sad, okay? Peace. I could. All right, guys, we're going to talk about the shoulder rotation in the backswing. But before, just so you have a clear understanding, this would be forearm roll, okay? To make this thing going, this would be shoulder rotation, okay? We could also call a little bit of humerus rotation in there, okay? But we're going to keep this simple with the shoulder area right now. As we go back, my shoulder is going to move down to its center point, okay? Now, we're going to talk about the rotation, but we're also going to talk about the placement of it, okay? So this whole shoulder bindle will go right to the sternum. So you see that whole shoulder went right into the center. So if I put something on my sternum and went, that shoulder's going right there. Now, if we stood straight up and down and I turned and had a right angle to my spine and I went back into my spine angle or my back angle here, you're gonna see that the shoulders are going a right angle to my back line, okay? So what is this left shoulder rotation having to do with anything? There's a lot of players who are forearm rotating. Some are keeping their shoulder and their pressure point really tight here. Some are getting this to go out. Okay, so I'm going to show you that there's a lot of ways to do it, and there's not one way to do it. But if we were going to keep it really, really simple, you look at like Hogan. Hogan would have his forearms and his arms here, but then he could also have his forearms turning this way, but his humerus bone and his shoulders were into not an internal, but they were more external here, okay? Now, as some players are keeping this upper arm and the shoulder in this position, the humerus and the shoulder, a lot of them are keeping it in this position the whole time. So they're not letting the shoulder rotate out this way, okay? So they're keeping it more into this position, into this position, into this position, okay? Into this position. Now, as I start down, that shoulder will want to move back internal, which will shallow the shaft very naturally. I mean, a lot of people will do exactly what I said and pull down, and they ruin the whole project, okay? But in general, let's try and keep our shoulders. My shoulder actually is a little bit more internal than external at address rather than Hogan's, okay? So you'll see my elbow and everything move out here, like kind of a Greg Norman. But a lot of players are very much here and then moving this way. So what would be my advice for you? I would say more of forearms would be a concentration in the back than the shoulder. But the shoulder bindle here, I would probably say more than anything, let's not have a lot of upper arm rotation in the back, okay? Let's keep that a lot tighter here, pressure points intact, and then we could be here or here, and then as we start down, then that shoulder will want to rotate internally. But if we get too internal here, we're going to try and go back this way. So I'd say that's about as simple as we need to keep it with the shoulder rotation in the backswing. Keep it kind of limited, okay? Peace. We're going to do the lead roll of the leg in the backswing, okay? So if I took this here, in my day, if I took two walls here, I would move off that wall, okay? I would also, as I did it, I would also get this left knee to go inside the hip. So the wider I get, the more this knee is outside the hip. The narrower I get, it's very close, okay? So let's just get about shoulder width. We could say shoulder width from the inside of the feet or shoulder width from the outside of the feet, okay? We're gonna just keep it right about in the middle of the feet for now, okay? I'm gonna keep something real simple. So that means that left knee is outside that outside hip, okay? So what I'd like to see, and in the backswing, I'd like to see the left knee come into straight line. That's straight line. Now, as I do that, the more and more this knee comes in, my pelvis is gonna drop, okay? So I'm gonna illustrate that with this. I'm gonna make a little project here, and we're gonna take a look at this. So as I set up here, the more and more I get this left knee to go in, the more my pelvis is gonna drop and my spine's attached, so everything's gonna be in here. Now, if I was like, let's say Arnold Palmer, I would turn around and it'd be pretty awesome, okay? Most players who are here are gonna slide, straighten up, and then actually add loft, hit it all over the place, okay? They'll be too stuck out to the right. Now, the lead hip for me, if we were gonna have a deal, I would say let's get this thing into more of a straight line and try and keep this pelvis level. Now, how am I keeping it level if my knee goes in and that drops my pelvis? I want to actually feel like I am actually going a little bit straighter up. Now, does that mean my legs don't turn? No, it's still going internal with this left leg, except for it's going into a straight line. So I'm actually standing up, okay? So I'm standing up a little bit, and as I do that, I'm still keeping my shoulders on their incline, okay? So watch the leg now. So have we done that? We go here, we're going up, up, up. Now my pelvis is really level. Now that means that the left side of the pelvis could drop and stay level and external, okay? It gives it room to do this. But if I actually drop down, most players are gonna slide. If I move here, I'm gonna have to move back and push off the right, I'm gonna slide. So there's a lot of weird stuff going on. So let's try and keep this left knee real simple. We're gonna move it from balls of the feet to the right instep of the foot, and it can come off a little bit. Does it have to? No, it doesn't. To be honest, I could get up here and do this and still hit the ball good, okay? We all can, most of us can anyways. So if I came up here and went, or I came over here and did this, we can hit a ball, okay? But I want repetition, I want the maximum distance, I want control and contact, and I want actually good rotation through the ball, which equals path and face closer to each other, great compression, lower dynamic loft if you need to hit it lower. So here's the deal. Let's do it again. Boom. The lead knee is going to go into a straight line. Let's see if it goes into a straight line. Boom. Now, the hips are not round. If they were round, as I turned, I wouldn't have space on each side. If I was really fat, I'd be able to hit that and that in the front, okay? But I'm not, okay? So the more and more I turn, I'm gonna create a space either on the right side or the left or a little bit on each side, okay? So where am I creating my space? If my pressure was 50-50 here, depends on what my upper body's doing, okay? I could keep it over here, more pressure's here. But let's assume we have the right amount of tilt. We stayed centered here. Let's keep this into a straight line. Let's create about a ball on this right side and keep this pelvis level with the knee coming into straight. Almost like we have a ball on our knee and we're keeping the same space between, and it'll help you actually go this way. That does not mean you can't do this or this or this. That's just a good guideline to follow with that left leg. All right, let's keep it that simple. Peace. All right, so here's the deal. We're gonna talk about the right leg, okay? Now, if I came over here and said, okay, I have some guidelines to that right leg. Let's say there's a wall up against the right leg, and I get over here, and I go over here, and I hit it really, really good. What am I gonna do, tell you you're wrong? No, I'm just gonna say good luck with that, all right? Good luck repeating that, all right? And then I get a guy over here when he's hitting the ball good, and his legs are going way over here, and way over here, and he's hitting it good, and you're like, all right, that's not gonna give you max distance, okay? It's not gonna give you the best swing direction coming through the ball. A lot of things are not gonna be optimal. But that doesn't mean you can't play good golf that way, okay? Because you probably could. All right, so what I want you to do is, I want you to come on over on this side, over here for me, por favor. So let's assume this is up against my leg, okay? It's probably a little bit off because I'm a little fat right here, but it's all good. So Look at this. So as I come in, I'm going to create a little bit of space there. No, not that much. My hips are not round. I explained that before. If they were, that means I'd be heavy on each side. But what's going to happen is you're going to create a space on one side or another. If I never turned, of course, the space is going to be the same. If I move this way or this way, that's going to change some things too. Okay, so we got a lot of things that we're looking at here. But if we did turn our hips back about 30 to 45, 50, which most players do, most of them create about a space right here, a ball. Let's just call it a ball. Can you move here? Of course you can. Could you move a little more? Yes. Could you move a little more here? Yes, of course. Now, there's reasons why I don't want you to move too far out, because then if you had to get back to center, most players are doing this, right knee goes internal, pelvis drop, spine, you get here. The only ones that really move too far off here with their upper body and their legs that got away with it was like Tiger. He got back to center because he didn't slide his legs. He moved everything back to center. He didn't slide the legs out. So I would like to see this here. Now, you could have your upper body over here, 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 depending on the loft you need or the launch angle. So that's all going to be okay. I set up here, right lateral bend here for like a driver. I'm going to maintain this. If I'm with the wedge, I'm going to stay right here, but my legs are still doing about the same thing. The left knee is going to try and come into that straight line, pelvis level. So that would be if we cut our legs off, what's going to happen? It's going to stay within that parameter. Now, what is the right kneecap doing? It's turning from 12 to 1 o'clock. Now, as it turns from 12 to 1 o'clock, is my foot coming off the ground? No. You're going to see that I'm keeping these parameters. 12 to 1, my quad is just, boom, it's locked in here. But actually, the kneecap is turning, which means my ankle and my foot is gripping into the ground, okay? That's a good thing. So now I've got this pressure that I'm creating into the ground. So the roll the right leg in the backswing, how much does the right leg straighten? The more and more this straightens, and I let this thing go down, I'm going to be really, really tilted with my spine. So let's try to keep them both going up just a little bit. And the pressure on the foot is going to be more towards the right heel of this right leg, okay? So if my shoulders go flat and I go up, I'm going to go to my toe, my shoulders stay on their incline, guess what's happening? That thing's going to move back a little bit from its original spot. Pressure is going to go to the instep of the right heel because the shoulders have gone down, okay? So we get in here, we have good pressure here. Boom, we've created a little ball there as a guideline. Some players are right up against it. I'm cool with either one. Some go a ball and a half. It's all good, okay? Enjoy. Peace. 3. All right, guys, so here's the deal. A lot of people keep asking me, hey, are you doing the A swing? Or what are you doing? I've seen Ledbetter doing an A swing. No, I do not teach an A swing. To me, it's always been vertical to shallow, okay? Vertical to shallow means shaft goes vertical, then shallow. That'd be very European. Ledbetter started doing a lot of vertical to shallow stuff a long, long time ago. He made up the A swing as the direction of the shaft changing. Now, is that a good thing or a bad thing? I see a lot of guys going vertical to shallow. Is there any bad to it? Well, if it's all shifted with the arms and the downswing, I could see it could be a little hard, but does not mean it's wrong, okay? So what I'd like to tell you is if we went to the backswing and I took one of these because I need it for the side of my shaft, I took this back and let's say that I took it more conventional, pointing this at it, was parallel at the ball, pointing that at ball line, pointing at ball line, pointing at ball line, all the way till I got parallel. Now that shaft is parallel to ball line. In my day, that's what we were taught to do. Ledbetter came along, and I don't even know when he came along, in the late 80s, early 90s, and he would always be, get the shaft vertical inside ball line, okay? Which meant in between the feet and the ball line, okay? Do I have a problem with that? No, not at all. What that does is that allows the club to be very light in the hands, okay? It actually, as you go back, it's really light in the hands. It's not over here where the pressure or the weight of the club is moving this way. It's more vertical. Now, as soon as I start down with my legs, that thing's going to want to actually shift back this way a lot easier than someone who's too far this way. It wants to go back this way, okay? So it's just a cause and effect. If you get the thing to get vertical, it's going to want to do this more often. So am I against that? Not at all. I would rather see that than someone doing a one plane or getting too laid off here and then trying to get that back on the shaft line, okay? We're not supposed to use the word swing plane anymore. It's more of a hand path. But the difference is, I'll use swing plane all I want, okay? We're gonna use whatever we wanna use, but I understand that for those of you guys going, hey, there's no swing plane, let's just stop the nonsense, okay? So here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna go here, 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 that's at it. Now, let's talk about his A swing. He takes it here, and immediately the club head's staying outside his hands, okay? The shaft is more vertical, okay? Now, he's trying as an exaggeration to get this shaft parallel to the spine, and then get this thing up, okay? And then as you start down, get that thing back out here, all right? Like I said, it's a good cause and effect. Do my players do it? Not intentionally. They've all done it just by natural ability. Like Matt Wolf. Matt Wolf, when I first met him, was really here, and then he was too far dumped out to the right. Then I got him to rotate from this position, and guess what? We know who he is now, all right? So as soon as he started doing that and hitting the ball so well, Johnny Ruiz came along and said, hey, I've always done this. Is it cool if I start here and turn? Because the shaft is shallowing better. I said, of course it is. So that's another route he went. Aaron Smith is one of the originators in our area, not in the whole world. But Aaron has always felt like when he played tennis, he went from here to here. So what he felt like was his arm went, we call this internal and external. The more internal he went, the more, as he said, as he started to turn, that thing wanted to go back that way. And that was a good reason for him going into that position. So back to the A swing. Is it good or bad? Hey, if you for getting the shaft to drop into the slot, it's not a bad thing at all, okay? So getting you to go from here, up here, into this position, and then back there and hit it straight, I'm cool with it, okay? Now, that was a pretty cool toss that the ball went over there, and I don't know, are you okay? Okay, so we watch again. I actually hit that pretty decent. So we go over here, and I get too vertical here, and I start to turn, boom. Now, that was pure as it gets, okay? That shaft went from real vertical to shallow. Now, I didn't do it like Ledbetter. I didn't go there. Now, just because I didn't drop it back external, what I did is I went vertical, and I left my hands in a circle here. I turned, but I left them in the circle as I turned. I didn't go down or try and do this. I left them here and turned, and guess what? My arm went there, and we'll get on a different subject with that. I think it's fine going A swing, but can you start the transition different than he does? Of course you can. Is he wrong? Definitely not. He's one of I would say he's one of the main gurus of all time. I have a lot of respect for him. Does that mean that I teach exactly what he does? Definitely not, okay? And that doesn't mean I'm better than him. It just means that he's doing it a little differently than I am, and I would say he's one of the biggest G's of all time, so got to give him respect, okay? Peace. All right, guys, so we're going to talk about internal and external of the shoulders, the forearms, all the angles of the wrist, and the downswing, okay? So is it all done with the legs? Is it all done with the arms? We're going to find out how to get that club to shallow out in the downswing and what's really causing it, okay? So I'm going to give you a cool little deal here. If my arm's internal, my arm's external, my forearms are actually, that's supination, but we're going to call that external, internal, humerus, external, internal, okay? This is cool too if you watch the forearms internal, okay? But then you watch the shoulder is what got that thing turned all the way around. That's shoulder rotation, okay? So we have a lot of different real intricate moves that go on in the downswing, and some of them are a cause and effect, and some are manufactured, okay? And most people are manufacturing everything, so it becomes hard to repeat under the gun, okay? So here's what I want to let you know. If I went to the top of the swing and my arm was very, very internal, meaning this way, that doesn't mean the club has to be across the line, just so you know, okay? And I've done lots of things. I could forearm rotate here, and this could be internal with the shoulder, forearm, and the left hand can make it go out there. It could also be internal here, but I have this stay internal and my forearms still rotate, and it looks laid off, okay, with an arm that people would say was gross, okay? So here's the deal. From wherever your position is up top, okay, the more and more we get it this way, it's going to stretch back this way. The more we get it here, it's going to actually turn back this way, okay? So remember that. It's a game of opposites, all right? So when I'm looking at this, what creates the downswing as we go up here with the right arm? As I start down, most players are getting taught external rotation of the shoulder, okay? So that's external rotation of the shoulder. So you go up to the top, and you can see that this is almost the same angle as my spine. I'm going to turn this elbow under my hand, and my hand's going to go back to my elbow. That would be very, very external, okay? That's one way to shallow the club out. Now, I could come over here with my left arm, be in the same place, and get the shoulder to go internal, okay, with some forearm rotation, okay? So as I go up to the top and I add both of those, boom, I'm really, really shallow, okay? Now, do I do that? I've done it. I used to do it, but I don't do it because it's too hard under the gun for me personally to do that, okay? So we're just talking shoulders. Now, there's so many ways to shallow the club out. I could sit here for hours and hours, okay? We've got other ways to shallow. We could go up here, and we're only talking about rotation or the downswing. Anytime you watch your wrist, they usually work in threes. You bow it down, and you release it, what happens? The forearm rotates, okay? So flexion, right here, and releasing, which is ulnar deviation, does what to the right wrist? Watch this, flexion, and that did what to my right wrist? Flexion and ulnar deviation added forearm rotation, and that's how a lot of other people will shallow the club out too. They'll go into flexion and boom, they'll go that way. That's another way to do it, okay? Do I use that? For some of my players, I'll use it once in a while, but not really, okay? Does that mean it's wrong? No, there's nothing wrong with any of these. So what I'd like to have you do is understanding this and this, or adding them all together. Let's add them all together, and we could get a lot of cool stuff. So some of my goals will go external here, internal in the shoulder, and then add forearm rotation. So they'll go up here and they'll go, but then they'll do them all, and they're like, whoa, I'm super, super shallow. So I would like to see you shallow it without doing any of that, okay? I'd like to see if you went up to the top of your swing and knew that as we sat and turned, the hand path moves more out. The more I rotate out, it goes there. The more and more I straighten this arm, my hand path goes down. Anytime that I don't rotate, my hand path goes down, okay? So what I want you to do is understand that now that we know that this right arm goes this way, watch what happens if I just rotate. Hand path goes out. Let's say I drew a circle around my hands and said, leave it in this circle. And I turn. But don't let it go this way and don't let it go this way. Ready? What happened to my arm? It went external all by itself, which is super cool to me, which works really well, okay? So how do I do that? I can go anywhere. I could start over here in a conventional, leave it in the circle, and it does it. I could be over here, leave it in the circle, don't let it go this way, don't let it go this way, but turn and leave it there, boom. It will do that all by itself. My forearms will rotate by themselves. My shoulders will internally and externally rotate correctly all by themselves. Now, what do the legs do? As they drop and they turn the way I like, what happens is ground pressure comes into effect. Also, it allows the club to drop a little bit better, and it also promotes rotation, which gets hand path going this way. But if you resist that this way without this way, boom, and you leave it in the circle, thing just drops, and it's a golden move right there, okay? So if you can do that and understand that I used to actually, what we'll do is I'll show you a cool thing that I used to do. We'll just say right here, I used to go up against the wall. Okay, let's imagine there's a wall behind me, and I'd go all the way to the top. Let me give myself room. And I get my elbow on it, and I'd go, okay, if I actually switch these and got my elbow, took out in the hand, and went like that, look at that. That's on the wall. I'm changing direction. So I go up to here, and I start down, boom, I shallowed it. So what am I doing? I'm trying to get my hands there and my elbow in front. So I'm really just going into external rotation. But it was a cool drill. I'd go up here and put my elbow on the wall, get my butt up against the elbow on the wall, and then go, boom, and hit it with the back of my knuckles. Cool, okay? But now, if I get up here and I leave my hand in the same direction, it does it all by itself, okay? And is it really doing it by itself? Well, if I leave my hands in that position, I'm actually doing something, but it's a lot easier than actually doing something with an action. I'm just actually leaving them in a place, which means now I feel like I'm turning and turning, and that's the goal of the golf swing, is to feel like you're just pivoting and pivoting rather than doing stuff with your arms, okay? So I think that that's pretty much the most important thing to understand with the arms and the shoulders. Yeah, there's a lot of detail to it that you can mess up, but if you're with me, you're not gonna get messed up doing those things, okay? Peace. In the mirror, so I make sure I'm doing it right, okay? Can you see me still? Yeah. Okay. All right, guys, we're gonna talk about one other thing here, another misunderstanding of how many different ways I'm setting people up in the backswing. So when I first did the membership site, you have like Johnny Ruiz here, you've got Matt Wolf here, you got Aaron Smith there. Those are 3 really good ball strikers, okay? Some of you guys are trying to do that, but what's happening is you're getting it really vertical, which means my right arm is getting internal, and I have radial deviation with very little form roll, okay? I know I've explained that, but here's the problem. When I see you guys getting deep, this arm's getting like this, your hand path is moving straight up, okay? Now, the problem with that is most of you guys are sucking your butt under you to get it back inside, because the hand path is too far this way, okay? We need more depth, okay? So a good rule of thumb is as soon as I start going like this and my leg buckles, my hands are gonna rise, okay? As soon as my body stops, the hand path is gonna take the direction of the shaft and it's gonna go straight up, okay? So understand that that's a big deal, because now, even if you do turn, you can still shallow it, but the hand path is so far out, you're gonna need a secondary tilt to get in, and if you don't, and it gets high and you turn, you're gonna be swiping it at the bottom like a baseball player, okay? So understand that that's a big deal. So now I'm gonna show you 3 different ways I usually set players up. Now, I've got guys who do everything, all kinds of mixtures, but I'm gonna show you 3 things that I work on with a lot of my players here. So if you looked at the right arm, we know this is external rotation of the shoulder. That's forearm rotation, which would be supination, okay? Pronation, okay, with external rotation. So we're not gonna get confused with all that right now. But what I'm gonna show you is if I took, will you grab me 2 sticks, my man? I'll grab this one, just so I can illustrate this correctly. Put it on the ball line back in line with the mirror. It's about good. Thank you. And right about here, in line. Thank you. Okay, so we're gonna call this ball line, okay, like we have a ball on it, okay? So when I look at this, I'm pointing this at ball line. I'm parallel with ball line. I'm pointing that at ball line, okay? Does it have to be there? Certainly not. I got guys that are like this and they're still okay. But what I'd like to see if you are gonna use this is this very easy model for hitting half shots and wedges, okay? So if you can get this to about here, the arm is externally rotated with the right shoulder and the forearms a lot more, and it's gonna point at ball line, okay? Now, from here, a lot of my players like the right arm to go internal, okay? So we go here, it's not external because we know that that's gonna do what? Make you go back this way, okay? That's stretch sword cycle, okay? So what you're gonna do is when you stretch a muscle completely this way, it wants to fire back the other way, okay? So as we look at it, we're here. Now the right arm is gonna go internal, okay? And you're gonna see that right arm being internal, that forearm is parallel to my spine. This is parallel to the ground. My left arm has depth. This is not depth. Depth doesn't mean it's low. It can still be high, okay? So let's get this forearm, or this back of the humerus, parallel with the ground, this forearm in a good position. You could hide the hands with the club being square to the forearm up top, this leading edge, okay? So that would be a good matchup. That would be where most of my juniors are at because they like looking pretty, okay? So they set up, they're good, so they can hit some wedges, and then when they take a halfer, then the arm rises up, okay? So that's gonna allow you, if you do it right, you have depth and you turn, that shaft is automatically gonna shallow on you every time, okay? The only way it's not gonna shallow on you is if you pull down, ruin the box in any other way, or you start going too linear. Linear meaning this way, okay? But if you actually are set up and you start to turn, that thing's going to do everything that you ever wanted to do, okay? So here's the next matchup. So let's say that I actually took it back to here, and then I took it to here, and then I took it to here. Is that okay? Yes, that's okay. The only reason that's not okay is if I'm starting to pull down or if I'm going linear with no rotation, okay? So if I get here just all pretty and then I want to go this way, I could. If I want to get here and I want to keep this same position, but now my form did not rotate. Here's form rotation. Here's shoulder still internal, okay? Now, I try and control this shaft with the left form stays there, okay? The right arm, if I had it only in my right arm, would feel naturally like this, okay? That'd be more cross. So the left hand is actually putting it there. It doesn't have to, but that's the way I tell a lot of my players. Feel like the left hand and the left arm and the wrist angles are all being controlled with that left arm, and this one is going internal, okay? So that'd be a classic position. So you have an option from here to here, as long as it doesn't go this way, or here, okay? So that'd be the next thing. Now, then we're looking at someone like Johnny. Johnny is going to get this hand path because he's turning, he's not folding the arm, he's getting more vertical, which is radial deviation, and he's keeping it there, but his hands aren't raising here. They're going here, and his left arm is deep, okay? Deep meaning over here, okay? And from here, there's no pull down, it's just straight around, okay? So he's not trying to do any of that with his arms. So just understand that if he gets in here and he turns early, you'll see him pivot this way. You will not see him pivot this way from across, okay? So hopefully you guys understand those positions of the backswing are crucial to actually get you back in the position you want at the bottom, okay? So that would be the next part. Hopefully that clears up some things so you guys aren't getting them deep and lifting up and then trying to do something to get it back in position. Remember, the depth of the arm has to do with how much I've turned and how much if I start bumping, things are gonna rise right up, okay? I think you guys got it.